So it's lovely to share with you all this evening. I've really appreciated everybody else's talks, and like Tammy, I am also very nervous this evening because it's my first public talk, and I have had a lot of imposter syndrome sneaking in on me this afternoon.
You're in safe hands.
I hope so. So following on from our previous talks, I feel like it's a bit kismet because there's been light bulbs going off above my head each time. So I'm like, oh, I touch on that, I'm going to touch on that. So I kind of feel that it's all intertwined quite nicely. So I'm a meditation teacher. I've been following meditation and Tibetan Buddhism specifically for around about 6 years. I do consider myself very much a beginner, and I think I'm going to see myself as that for most of my life. So today I'm just going to share about meditating, why we meditate, and I'm going to be talking mostly about from the Buddhist perspective. So if it resonates with you, great. If you think it's not for you, that's great as well. So from the Buddhist perspective, we meditate so that we can appreciate the richness and the quality of our lives, of ourselves. And also, this sounds a bit Debbie Downer, and I'm probably going to lose some of you here, it's also so we don't have any regrets when we die. I'm losing some of you, I'm sure. Okay, so when we meditate, as I say, we do see the value in our lives, we do see the value of ourselves, and meditation also opens us up to impermanence, and we can remember this impermanence. So this helps us to be more awake and to be more present. And we can have more gratitude for each passing moment. So it also allows us to think and to respond instead of react, and in that way we don't have any regrets. It allows us to do the helpful things rather than the harmful things, which is essentially the essence of the Buddha's teaching. So we can accept the changing nature of everything around us, and we accept the fact that we too can also change. Is everybody with me so far? Okay, so impermanence is the gateway to the wisdom of letting be and letting go. None of us are that great at that. I'm definitely not great at letting go. Okay, so the habits that we find difficult to break are just as impermanent and transitory as anything else. A lot like the seasons, everything comes and goes and changes. So there's an old Buddhist saying about a man riding a horse. And one day this man is riding a horse quickly and with determination. And then a bystander calls out to him and says, "Where are you going?" He says, "I don't know, ask the horse." So the story illustrates quite nicely how our own racing minds can take us on journeys and twists and turns that we don't really know where we're going or what the destination might be. We all have this racing, whirling mind. So most people have this misconception that we need to still this racing mind and have a calm mind to even begin to meditate. This is completely wrong. So having a calm mind is not a matter of who we are, it's a matter of who we can become and and through practice. So the good news is that we all can take control and create our own peace. Is everybody still with me? Okay, so tonight I'm going to talk mostly about mindfulness and mindfulness of anger. Who here gets angry? Who here got angry today? Maybe a little bit irritable? Agitated? Yeah. Who got angry this week? Yeah. Teenagers, stroppy teenagers. Okay, so if anyone can't relate to this, then or feels that it's not relevant to them, maybe now the time to go. But anger is absolutely, essentially part of our wiring. It's essential for our survival. It's an intelligent emotion. It helps us to flourish, but it can be incredibly destructive, particularly when it takes over and we become hijacked by it. Has anyone ever felt hijacked by their anger and sort of spiraled with it? And then you get angry about being angry. So the critical inquiry that I'm going to share this evening is how do we shift from reacting out of anger to responding wisely. And this is the trajectory of consciousness, that shift from reactivity to responding, that a regular meditation practice can help us all achieve. So this is when, instead of acting from just one part of our brain, the angry part, or the reactive part, we actually respond from the whole of our brain, all of our wisdom, all of our learnings along our journey, and from our heart. However, the more raw and wounding the situation is, the more likely we are to get activated and react. So as I've said, the meditation and the regular practice of meditation, it is important that it is a regular practice, allows us to create these pauses and these moments where we can respond instead of reacting, creates new neural pathways, new patterns of behaviour, which is actually picked up on MRI scans now. Science is starting to very well document it. So by doing that, we create a capacity of empathy, really sensing what it's like for other people. And it allows us to be mindful, and it allows us to be mindful and notice these patterns that we are becoming reactive, so we can turn it inwards. But it's not easy to do this. It's quite easy to become taken over, hijacked, possessed by our anger, and just run with it. On a personal level, I don't know anybody that's not been affected by anger and hasn't struggled with it at some point. So when we start our meditating practice and we start using mindfulness, we begin to notice these patterns, and that we begin to open up more choices, and we have the ability to act in a better way, in a more productive way. So essentially there are 3 principles of investigating anger. So the first one is it's absolutely natural. As I say, it's an intelligent and very necessary emotion. It lets us know when we have hit an obstacle and we need to adjust. The second is when we're getting hijacked, when our whole identity starts getting organised around our anger, when it becomes not just a state of mind, but more of an ongoing trait. That sense of blame and resentment, then there's the suffering because we cut ourselves off from ourselves, we cut ourselves off from others, and we cut ourselves off from our wisdom and our own heart. And the third, like I say, if we learn to pause and deepen our presence and just be here and now, we can transform our life in a really profound way, having no regrets. So the underlying attitude that can really free us from our habits of getting angry and getting fixated outwardly is to take control, to take 100% responsibility onto ourselves. A lot of blank faces. We don't like the idea of taking responsibility. Okay, so if you take 100% responsibility for your experience, although this isn't new news to anyone by any means, it's a powerful filter in which to hold situations through. You are not responsible for others, and you are not responsible for how others react, but you are 100% responsible for your experience and your reaction. And that is across the board, in any situation, in any experience, work-wise, picking up the paper and negative articles that there are plenty of, and how riled up you may or may not get when you read them. But you are responsible for your experience and how you react to those. Anger is essentially when we have an unmet need. Usually people get angry because there's something that's not being met for them. Back to your angry teenager. So the Tibetans actually describe anger as an essence of wise discrimination, and that there is some clarity there. And there's something that needs attention. And if we don't pay attention and be alert to it, that's when it begins to take over. So the invitation now is to just have a little practice, very short, very brief. So I'd like you all to just close your eyes just for a moment. And to begin with, just take a couple of long, slow, deep inhalations and exhalations, just to allow yourself to really be present now. So I'd like you now to just bring to mind a recent situation where you may have reacted, where you may have gotten angry. Perhaps you regret it now. Maybe sensing what sort of aggression it was. Maybe you got angry and badmouthed somebody behind the back. Maybe you raised your voice. Maybe you swore. Or maybe you just got caught up in resentment. So just take a moment to really investigate this situation. Notice what was the outcome of your anger. What was the effect on the other person when you got angry? And were you able to get your needs met by becoming angry? Now I'd like you to just deepen it a little more and just notice when you got caught up in that reactivity, what was your sense of self? What was the sense of kind of person that you are? So our investigation this evening is not to cause any judgment, but to sense with an active awareness the suffering, the squeeze of being angry, and how small it can make us when it takes over. So to begin to overcome this pattern, we begin with this liberating attitude that we are 100% responsible for our experience. You might like to open your eyes, you might wish to keep them closed, both are fine. So in those moments when we are taking responsibility for our actions and we are seeking to respond instead of react, it's not to overlook or excuse the behaviours of others. But if you're triggered when you're hurt, responsible means you are 100% able to respond to yourself. You notice this feeling of reactivity building. And in that situation, in a way at least, you can take care of your own experience, you can meet your own needs, and you can respond to the other with understanding and empathy. To cultivate this kind of awareness does require a regular practice, a daily practice. It does take a while, and it's not always perfect. You will still get angry and react. But we need to be kind to ourselves and show ourselves just as much compassion as we would anybody else. And so we need to think that instead of I must meditate every day because it's going to do me good, I'm not going to get angry, I'm not going to react, I'm going to be cool and I'm going to be calm, and it's really going to pay off at work and in my personal relationships.
It sounds like me.
So instead of shifting it, instead of thinking of it as a should, I must, these are quite aggressive ideas of transforming ourselves and starting to work and go in on ourselves. But reframe it as a I could get up and meditate this morning. I could meditate before I go to bed tonight. I could be more mindful whilst I'm waiting for the kettle to boil. And each of these moments where you choose to be present and really connect and check in with yourselves, that's what adds up. and creates the changes over time, the consistency in the practice. So, going back to the horse analogy to begin with. So it's like when you train a horse. If you train a horse, you could use a whip. You could whip the horse into doing what you want. And you're going to get a good result. It's going to do what you want, because it's going to be fear-based. But what the horse is also going to do at the first given chance is he's going to turn around and he's going to bite you. But if you work with the kind of horse whisperer approach, where you work with the animal, or in our case, work with our minds, and show that kindness and that compassion, you get a much better, much long-lasting, more holistic approach. And that is that.